Hello? Your Health is Calling, where holistic health meets practical solutions for your well-being. With your host, speaker, New York Times bestselling author, Sue Kostyk, a seasoned holistic health practitioner and longevity coach. Join Sue each week to embark on a journey to uncover the root causes of your health concerns. Through a personalized approach, learn how to decode the messages your body is sending and craft natural protocols to address them. Call in live at 888-994-4995 Studio A.
Good morning and welcome to Hello, Your Health is Calling. I'm Sue Kostyk. I am an integrative health practitioner and I'm coming to you this morning. We have been journeying through what we call in the integrative health world the de-stress protocol. It was developed by Dr. Stephen Cabral, and it is a methodology that in integrative health we use to help people rebalance. And it's one of those things that is extremely helpful to people who are starting their journey, their health journey, understanding that their body is not balanced, that perhaps some disease is showing up. So I'm just going to recap. We are actually moving through a little bit slower because I'm also wanting to share some test results that have come across in my practice that will help you to understand, hopefully, why these functional lab testings are so vital. So the D in de-stress is for diet, and that's where we start first. We start with our diet, and it's not putting you on a diet. Diet is a four-letter word. We look at your diet and see where changes can be made. The rule of thumb in my practice is to eat whole food. Stay away from processed foods. If there is one thing that you wanted to do right now today to improve your health, is to eat whole foods. Stay away from processed foods because those processes are putting chemicals into your body that your body doesn't know what to do with. So that is the number one thing. Eat a whole food diet. Eat a diet that is robust in color, in macronutrients. And when I say macronutrients, I mean proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. All of the above. Do not eliminate one of those factors. The E is going to be exercise. And that does not necessarily mean that you need to go kill yourself in the gym for 2 hours every day. It means movement. And our bodies were made to move. So when we don't move, it causes all sorts of things to start to happen. Our muscles start to deteriorate. Our bones aren't as healthy as they used to be. So movement is extremely important in this whole protocol. And what you don't know what you don't know. So it's really important to get with someone who understands your overall health picture and understands where and what types of exercise are best for you at this moment in your health journey. So the exercise piece is really important. Again, it's not meaning that you have to be in the gym 2 hours a day. It just means that you need to move your body. You've heard if you don't move it, you lose it, and that is pretty accurate. The S of the de-stress protocol is for stress management. And that is a tricky one because we live in an extremely stressful time. I will not sit here and tell you that you can eliminate stress from your life, but you can manage it, and you can do things that are going to support your body through stressful times. And we did actually review some labs that show how your body manages stress and what your body is using up too much of those minerals. So that was a really nice educational piece for a lot of viewers because you don't understand the what your body is robbing when you are in a stressful situation. So managing your stress is super important. The T is for toxin removal, and sadly, we live in a toxic world. We are surrounded by environmental toxins, But what we put in our body is super important as well. And knowing your toxicity level is super important to your overall health. So, understanding the places that you can go to lower your toxic load. And I like to think of our body as a cup or a rain barrel, as is explained in this de-stress protocol. Is we are literally a rain barrel that is just filling up. And when your body doesn't is so full of toxins, it doesn't know what to do with them. So it ends up just storing it in fat, fills the fat cell up with water, and boom, there we've got, toxic fat in our body. So understanding where your toxic load is at, what you can do, all the different places you can work on in your household, in your diet, in your environment to lower that toxic load. Now, the R is where we've kind of landed, and it is for rest. And we live in a society that kind of glorifies not sleeping, being stressed out, not ever stopping. And that is doing a super disservice to us, because what's happening is our body is really putting out way too much cortisol. And cortisol is the hormone that your body releases when you are in stress, and it helps you handle stress. And it gives you that energy. So, prehistoric man, if you were going to war or if you were running away from a bear, your body didn't know the difference, and it just releases the cortisol to give you that energy to do it. So there's a lot of us that are living in that constant fight or flight because we don't rest and we don't put ourselves into the proper nervous system. Our nervous system is divided into two parts. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and we have the parasympathetic, which is your rest and relax. And the rest and relax is when your body does all of the healing. It tells your body to produce hormones. It heals. Your liver can go through all the detoxification. So if we are constantly up in that high fight or flight forever, even when we're sleeping because our brains aren't shutting down, then we are eventually going to run out of the cortisol and the hormones that help us to deal with that fight or flight situation. And we talked the last time about what can happen when we're constantly in that chronic fight or flight. And when your body is so busy producing all that cortisol and we're not ever coming down off of it, I say this over and over again, and you may as well just get used to it, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so what happens is when you are in fight or flight, your digestion slows down, your hormone production slows down, because when you're in that situation, you don't need to digest, you don't need to reproduce. So your body is just shutting those systems down so that you can get out of the urgent situation that you're in. That's how we were created. That's why the cortisol exists. It's a very vital hormone. We need it, but we don't need to be in it all the time, and we can't be in it all the time. And a lot of times what happens is, and if you've heard the term adrenal fatigue, that means that your adrenal glands, which produce the cortisol, are fatigued. They're tired. So Peter has nothing to give Paul anymore, basically. And we start to notice things starting to happen. We're fatigued all the time. Maybe you have allergies, or maybe never had allergies and all of a sudden you have allergies. That is a sign of adrenal fatigue as well. You have a lot of sugar cravings. Those are a huge sign of way too much cortisol. Maybe your thyroid function is lowering. This happens to a lot of women, and especially women of childbearing years. We're raising families, we're working, we're never resting. So all of a sudden you're feeling like you have no energy. You go to the doctor and they say your thyroid is too low, and they give you a medication. And what is happening there is, it's not that you need that medication. You need to rebalance your body so that your hormones are producing correctly so that you have that energy. Chronic stress is one of the biggest things that are going to disrupt your hormone function. And I'm talking a lot about stress as an outside factor, but also there is oxidative stress, which is an inside factor. So if you are feeling like your digestion isn't working well, or that you all of a sudden are feeling really unwell and you've been diagnosed with maybe a disease of some sort, that could be just a sign that you are under way too much chronic stress. I'm going to be a little transparent here and human. And the last couple weeks, actually the last month, I'm going to say, we've been gearing up for my youngest for her graduation. We had family in. It was all the things. I decided that I needed to do some painting in my house because I was going to have guests in my house for a graduation party. And I literally, for probably a month, just went too fast, too far, and did not rest. And once graduation was over and my family was gone, I was down. It took me out. And that is what happened. I just had way too much stress in my life. I wasn't watching how I was, handling everything, and it literally took me out for about 3 days. So this is what can happen even when you are in what you think the healthiest time of your life. Chronic stress is going to do that, and it could be from your 20s and 30s, and now you're in your 50s, and all of a sudden you're feeling this. This is what's happened. So there's a couple of diseases that come along with chronic stress, and Cushing's disease is one of them. If you've heard of that, if you're experiencing that, that is where your body cannot shut off the cortisol. That is where you've been running too long and it can't shut down. So maybe you're going to sleep at night, but you're waking up super tired. That is because your body hasn't been able to shut down while you're sleeping. Cushing's disease always ends up into Addison's disease. And Addison's disease is when you have no more cortisol. So that's when you are really in trouble. And those are the people that cannot get out of bed. They cannot move. They have no desire to do anything. It's just a struggle. So these are the things that you need to be careful of. One of the big signs leading into this is maybe depression. Your immune system is really suppressed. You are starting to gain some weight, some belly fat weight. This is a sign that your cortisol is leading into some trouble. So, that is the recap of rest and what can happen when you don't rest. And so after the break, I'm going to bring on some slides that are from some functional lab testing where we tested hormones and cortisol levels of some clients. And I'm going to show you how chronic stress really shows up on lab testing. And these tests are super simple. They come right to your house. You do them in the comfort of your own home, and then you mail them. It's very easy. So we're going to go to a break, and then I'm going to come back and show you some labs.
Hello, your health is calling. Feeling bloated, low on energy, dealing with hormone imbalances? Integrative health coach Sue Kostyk is here to assist you. Reach out to Sue for practical health solutions guided by her professional training as a holistic coach. Sue specializes in identifying the underlying causes of health issues and restoring balance. Don't let your health concerns impact your well-being. Contact Sue Kostyk today at 917-362-5176 or via email at sue@symmetryhealthandwellness.com and take the first step towards a healthier, happier you.
Hello, Your Health is Calling, a new show brought to you by the Reinvented Life Network. Tune in Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You've been watching Hello, Your Health is Calling. Join me as we dive into the realms of longevity, nutrition, stress management, and toxin removal, all without the use of harsh pharmaceuticals. And now, back to the show. Welcome back. So now we are going to dive into some functional lab test results of real life clients of mine. And it's going to show you how stress works on the body. So let's go to the first one. And so I've highlighted, there's in the red, you can see under the DHEAs, there's 4 cortisol tests. And this is how we do it. We test throughout the day because you can't just get a snapshot of one time. So that's even with your hormones. We need to find out how your hormones are working throughout the day, not just a one-time shot. So the first cortisol is morning, the second is noon, the third is afternoon, and the fourth is evening. So this particular client of mine, a female, very high stress in a super, super high stress job, does not sleep well, starting to have some metabolic syndrome issues, lots of weight gain. Her insulin is really, really high. It's starting to lead into perhaps a pre-diabetic situation. But I highlighted the nighttime cortisol. So cortisol, when you first wake up, should be at its highest, which that makes sense, right? So you can see her cortisol in the morning is at a good level. It goes up in the afternoon, it is up in the evening, and it is super high at night. That is not the right pattern that we want. She does have good cortisol in the morning, but it's supposed to start lowering. You really want to be high in the morning, and then once that noontime comes around into the evening, you really want it to start lowering, because lowering cortisol is going to signal your brain to start producing melatonin, which helps you to sleep at night. So this one also in particular, we ran a few tests on her, and she does also show some gut bacteria. So whenever your gut is in what we call dysbiosis, when it's not balanced, that is definitely going to affect your hormones. And the high cortisol is in the evening is showing me that she is not resting and relaxing at night. And she's starting to have that adrenal fatigue that could very well set in. So let's go to slide 2. So slide 2 is, he is basically, sorry, lost my space here. He's again in an extremely high stress situation. Now, if you look at his morning cortisol, it's low. He is waking up tired. It does go up in the middle of the day and in the afternoon, but then it tanks again at night. I did put in a number there, 5.9 total. So when you total your numbers for cortisol, you want it to be about 11 to 12, 12 at the highest. And this guy only has a total of 5.9. So this is telling me that he is in adrenal exhaustion, and he, definitely needs to start calming himself during the day. He also has some bacteria in his gut. We ran multiple tests. His heavy metals were very high. So this is definitely a textbook case of someone who is getting into that adrenal fatigue. So the next one. Now this gal is pretty young. And she also is showing signs of adrenal fatigue, but I put an arrow up to her hormones because you can see that all of her hormones are really low. So what's happening here with her hormones is because her cortisol, she's starting to get into that adrenal fatigue area. Her cortisol is causing, her high cortisol is causing her hormones to lower. because her body has been pumping so much cortisol, it's not producing those hormones. She was experiencing some fertility issues, and this is what we found. We also found bacteria in her gut, and we also found heavy metals. So this is one of those classic things, and she's young. So if people are experiencing some infertility, then we need to test your hormones for sure. We need to test your gut bacteria, and we do need to test for heavy metals, because heavy metals are definitely going to play a part in fertility issues. We can go to the next one. So the next slide is pretty normal. This female, she's in menopause, and her hormones are pretty much where she needs to be, except for maybe her ratios of her progesterone and estrogen, but pretty much for the most part, she's pretty normal. Now, her total cortisol is 12.5, so it's going high. So this means that this could be a start of Cushing's. We need to really watch. Her morning cortisol is really, really high. It's, it's great to have that energy in the morning, but if it's too high, then, that means that cortisol is spiking, and it doesn't really lower well until the evening time. So this is another one. She's not in too bad a shape, but we need to watch it. So next one, please. And so here's another one that we had some fertility issues with. Now, both her estrogen and her progesterone, they are what we call high normal. It's still in the green, but it's really going towards the yellow, and that throws the balance off. As you can see, her ratio is low. Now, her morning cortisol is super high. And then it just tanks. So it goes from, like super high down to low, and it doesn't really get any better. And she's at 11.1, so she is on her way to adrenal fatigue. So this is another one where you can see that high cortisol could be leading to some hormone disruption. And she's pretty young, so another thing to watch. High stress, very high stress. She's a business owner, and so... Okay, next one. Okay, so this is the husband of the gal that you just saw. So they came to me for fertility issues, and super, super high stress. This man, he owns businesses. They actually found mold in their house and had to move out of their house and do everything. So both of them tested very high in mold and heavy metals as well. So here you see he's at a 14.4. He is on his way to adrenal fatigue. It's affecting all of his hormones. This is just a really good sign that you can see how this, look at his morning cortisol. It is super, super high, and then it just tanks. So, the evening and the nighttime one is kind of where you want it to be, but throughout the day he has no energy. And it's definitely affecting his hormones. So we can go to the next one. And this one is a very young gal, and she was also having some fertility issues. When I picked all these, I didn't realize the fertility issues that came along with it. But so her cortisol is pretty normal, but it's high. She's at a 12.8. So this shows me that she is on her way to adrenal fatigue. If you take a look, this also affects your insulin and your blood sugar. Her insulin is high, and she is a very thin woman. So you can't just say, oh, I'm at a good weight. She's a thin, athletic woman, but her insulin is high. Her hormones are extremely out of whack. And, just by looking at her cortisol, you'd go, oh, okay, well, this looks good, but it's way too high. So this is another example of how your hormones, your cortisol is going to affect your hormones. It's going to affect your metabolic syndrome. It's going to affect your fertility. It's something that you really, really need to pay attention to. And we can go to the next one. And here's a young gal who, very high chronic stress, was going through nursing school and no sleep, no rest. The 8.5 total is not good. Her blood sugar regulation was really poor. Um, you look at her cortisol, how high it was in the evening. That is way too high. Her cortisol in the morning was super low. It's like her whole rhythm was totally out of whack. So, and again, it did affect her progesterone and estrogen ratios, and it did affect, um, her cortisol. So let's, pay attention. If you are in a job that you can't help, that it's high stress, first responders, doctors, nurses, mothers, you can't escape the stress, but you can manage it and you can support your body with the things that you need. And this whole de-stress protocol is perfect because it talks about your diet, it talks about your exercise, stress management, removing toxins. A lot of these people that I run tests on, we run multiple tests. We don't just do the hormone test because everything is interconnected. And a lot of people I find when their cortisol's high, their hormones are disrupted, we also find heavy metals and we also find gut bacteria. And this one in particular did have gut bacteria, heavy metals. So just removing them, and this is kind of an old test, and she's doing great. It took about 6 months to rebalance her, but it was all naturally, and there wasn't any, pharmaceutical intervention. It's just natural ways that your body knows how to rebalance itself when you give it what it needs. So the last slide is a gal who, very high stress situation. She was a stay-at-home mom her almost entire life, and very much a doer. She did everything for her family, but as you can see, her hormones are disrupted. Her cortisol is not doing well. Her A1C is going high. She, again, very thin, athletic. You look at her and you think she's in the epitome of good health, but she's not. She also tested high in heavy metals. And, once we start to rebalance all this stuff, these tests look a lot different. So, that's it with the tests. And I want to, just kind of summarize this whole part of the de-stress protocol as rest, because it really is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. And like I said, you're not going to ever get away from stress. It's around us. We're in an extremely stressful time in our world. And what you can do, though, is you can do things to help yourself. If you sit at a desk, if you, have one of those jobs where you just can't get up and move around, just every 50 minutes that you are sitting down, get up and walk around for 10 minutes. If you can get outside, that is the best thing you can do. If you can't, just move your body, get the blood flowing. You can make sure that you're not doing really, really heavy, intensive exercise. If you know that you are under a lot of stress, the last thing you need is to go and do a HIIT class. What you need to do is walk, and you need to breathe and perhaps do some yoga, some light yoga, not power yoga. And you don't want to add that stress on your body. You're already producing so much cortisol. And when your body is under a lot of stress, then you are just adding more stress to it by doing those heavy, intensive workouts. So be gentle with yourself. If you are having trouble sleeping, if you have a weird circadian rhythm where you're up till 3 in the morning and you sleep, till 8 or 9, try reducing that just by 15 minutes a night. Get to bed 15 minutes earlier. Just try to restructure your sleep. Don't eat late at night. Don't drink alcohol late at night. If you are under a lot of stress, alcohol is not the way to de-stress. Calming your mind down, reading a book, listening to some music, meditation, a lot of these things are going to help you to get into that parasympathetic nervous system before you go to sleep. I talk about the functional lab testing. If you think that you are having any of, these symptoms, then get in touch with me. Support at Hello, Your Health is Calling is the best way. And we'll get you some tests. We'll figure it out. Really, testing does not lie. It's like your blood doesn't lie. You can't just go through life thinking that, oh, I feel pretty good, and I'm just going to keep moving on until I don't, because that's basically what's going to happen. So with that said, next week we are going to go into the emotions part of the de-stress protocol and how we can manage our emotions and how that works together with our body. And until then, again, contact me. Let's get in touch. Let's put together a plan of action to get you on your health journey. Support at Hello, Your Health is Calling. And if your health is calling, please answer. Don't wait. I'll probably have to do a whole session on how I waited too long, but we don't want you to do that. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Hello, Your Health is Calling with Sue Kostyk. Remember, your health journey is ongoing, and we're here to support you every step of the way. If you have any questions, insights, or stories to share, don't hesitate to reach out. You can connect with us on social media or call in live at 888-994-4995 Studio A. Together, we're transforming lives and embracing holistic well-being. Until next time, prioritize your health and remember, your health is calling.